Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jared at 3Cs. I am excited because we have the new RRX Pro. This happens to be the 200. My 300 is a couple days behind it in transit. We're going to do some different stuff in this video. It's going to be a model intro, and then it's also going to be some tech tips. We just got our first one in, and things that if you're buying one, I think you should do to it right away. I do have a 2024 sitting next to it here, which we'll kind of like use in this video because this is supposed to be shorter. Bad news is that it's raining outside. It's been raining all week. We had like 3 or 4 weeks of beautiful weather. That's all behind us. Good news for Braxton is that it's raining really hard up where the race is this weekend, and he's a mudder, so should be good for him. So let's jump into this thing. Okay, so right away there's going to be a couple things that I have not installed. This is the front fender strap. Beta has been making some pretty big notes about this in their press release about these front fender straps. Problem is that it's fully sewed. So to get this on, I have to take the customer's forks completely off the bike. And I'm not saying that I don't want to do that, but I think the majority of us don't really want a strap beating on the front fender. This is more of like an extreme hard enduro situation. I'm not sure that's what this bike is for. So some of the aftermarket ones are just a Velcro. You would put it on, Velcro it on, much easier to take on and off. So it is pretty cool how it's, what do you want to call it, spandex? Like it'll retract itself, so it's not going to be quite as big of a strap on the forks. But most of us, unless we're doing hard enduro, you don't see these on the trail. Not a very common thing. The second thing that I am not installing, and I won't install it, is the anti-theft kill switch. It's all wrapped in this bag, so it's really hard to see what it is. But just know, I did a video on the 2024 cross trainers. These are 25s. Just came in too. We're going to do a video on those later. Is that this thing requires, come on in Braxton, I know it's hard to see through 2 plastic bags. This is a battery pack in here, and it requires 3 AAA batteries. You pop the end of it off. If this battery pack, if the batteries die, you're stuck. If this doesn't have charge, it doesn't matter what you try to do to this thing, it won't run. So I don't believe in these tethers. I want to keep the bikes as simple as possible. So if you're in this video and you're wondering where these features are, they're not in it. Okay, so right away you see all the new body styling, and I really like it. The more I have it here, the more I've been playing with it, and the more I feel the old 2024s are outdated. So come on in, Brax, let's give a good look at this headlight. Definitely feels like the headlight is bumped out a little bit further and the mask is tucked back. And then all new shroud designs, got a bit of a lip on the front of it here. You can kind of see that lip on it. Comes all the way down through. Still really hard for us dealers to put any kind of graphic on it. Like, they're not giving me anywhere to advertise, so it is what it is, but I prefer like a bigger, thicker beam here so I can put 3Cs on here. So kind of bummed that it's still really small and squishy. But as far as like fit finish and how it's not going to hurt your legs, I think it's great. Come on in and show this gas tank, Brex. So come around on this side here. All right, so you'll notice the gas tank design. I love this. They took the map switch away from here. They put it up here. I'm still gonna probably delete this. I don't love the map switches. I don't think they do a ton. It's got the 2 positions in it. But the beauty is when you're taking your gas tank off, you got the 2 shroud bolts, the gas tank bolt, disconnect your fuel line, and you can roll this gas tank off without trying to undo a map switch in the middle of all that. So props to Beta for changing that. I think it's great. And while we're right here, we're gonna show you this. So we're gonna take this gas cap off. You guys have to remove these green plugs. Every bike that we sell, we remove these. This will end up in the bottom of your gas tank. This is your check valve. So if the bike fell over, it would prevent fuel from coming out. But it also prevents air from coming in. So it'll kind of vapor lock your bike. And also they just fall off. So here's how you remove it. You just take your finger. Let's see how easy that came off. So after like 5 miles on the trail, so this goes right in the trash. And then beyond that, you'll see inside of here, you got to go 1 step further and get rid of this O-ring inside of here. So you can kind of see I've got my knife under it. And so all the green shavings came out with the O-ring. So make sure O-ring is out as well. And so we can put our gas cap back on. That is tech tip number 1. All right, so here's the handlebar layout for 2025. It is identical to the 2024s. You've got the same exact switch, high beam, low beam, horn, left and right. That's going to be tech tip number 2 here in a second. You got the wires that go down behind the mask here. And then you got your Speedo cable. This is going to be tech tip number 3 in another second. Map switch, like we talked about, it's new. It's in the bar pad. It's pretty secure. I don't love the idea of the LED like right in front of your face. because it's pretty bright. I don't know. So like I said, I usually remove these. Then as we come this way, it's just the start and the stop switch. So there's no key on these. So as soon as you hit the throttle, it's going. And then tech tip number 4 in another couple seconds is going to be a throttle free play. So let's jump into this. Okay guys, so tech tip number 2 is if your bike is not street legal, which 99% of the states it's not, you don't need this turn signal block. So all we do is we're going to take this little Phillips screwdriver. This actually is the same since they came out with this block. So you can do this to any of your bikes. So I just took out that self-tapping screw right there, and watch this. We can literally just slide this out. And it has its own wire packet. So you've got the wires for like the high beam, low beam, and horn, and then you have the wires for just this. So look at this handlebar. It's hard to tell all the stuff in the background. Look how much cleaner that is. No more big block on the bottom that's going to break off. Not needed. So I'm going to slide it back on because this is a customer's bike. But if it was my bike at home, that's how quickly you can remove the turn signal block. And then also to put it back on. Look at, you can just screw it right back on if you need to. So tip number 3 is going to be your Speedo cable relocation. So we've already done it on the bike. I'm going to pop the mask off. So take your headlight mask off. You're just going to pull off on both sides. The same band over here. Kind of pull forward and rock it up and out. And so this Speedo cable, you can see how we have moved it over here off to the side. So normally this plug is going to be in its black plastic holder down here, way down here. Hard to see, I know. So in theory, pretend that this is way down here. See how much tighter and more pressure it just put on the cable? So right now, the suspension is fully open. So the forks are all the way down. But as you compress the forks, it's pulling up on this because the brake line's coming up higher and it'll rip this cable. It'll actually pull the pins out of the back of it. So if you're at home and wondering why your Speedo quit working, it could be because this was getting tugged on way too hard. So by us taking it out and moving it up here, it gives that so much more free play. And the wire is nice, easy. Look at that, it's like perfect. Comes right up through here. It's kind of designed that way. So that's tech tip number 3. And to finish the second tech tip, you can see that wire packet, the separate one. Let me find it, the skinnier one. As it comes in, you could simply just unplug it right there if you want to. So unplug it there, you know, use some electrical tape, tape up the pin that's on the bike side, and then you can take that whole turn signal block right off of there. When we set these bikes up, you got to check your throttle free play. This actually is pretty good from the factory. It's pretty tight already. This kind of pan over here, you don't have to move, Braxton. But this is a 25 cross trainer, and look how much free play is there. And I hate that. That's way too much. So this bike right from the get-go seems to be pretty good. And there's really not a lot more adjustment because, like, to make it looser, or yeah, it couldn't go any looser because it's already got the adjuster all the way in. So that's pretty good. Maybe a little bit on the loose side still. This is kind of set more once you get the bike outside. So I'm going to take away a little bit because we want to make sure when we go full left and full right, we don't, you know, it's not pulling on the throttle body. So I think we're okay. I think that's a pretty good throttle free play. Okay, to take the seat off on the RRX Pro, just push in on the button, pull back on the seat, pull it up a little bit. We have our oil injection tank here like always. This is kind of standard on the 2-strokes, has been for a while. This is where the battery goes, starter solenoid. So pretty similar underneath of here. I'm going to give you a tip that when you put your seat back on, you have one pin here, then you have this here that has to catch. I have so many people, let's show this, Braxton. This catches right here on the frame because a lot of folks are starting here way too high and they're missing that. And they're kind of bananing their seat base. So if you kind of like get the first one started, pull back on it, you can see it kind of fell down into a groove and push down on the seat. So that's how the seat comes off. And then this is the new airbox cover. I think it's cool, kind of like a rigid design, but I also think it's better. So if I pull it off, these tabs are much bigger on it. So I think for most folks putting this back on, it's gonna be much easier to catch these further out and then it slides up in. But another tech tip would be to put a little bit of grease on these pins so that way the rubber doesn't come out of the airbox cover. It's kind of a nice thing there. And then this is the air filter, and a lot of people can never figure out how to put these back in. This one I'd like to see tucked out this way a little bit more, and we'll adjust it, but this is all new. So we're gonna pull down on this tab, and I'm gonna pull up and out on this, and that's how we get the air filter out. It's that simple. It's funny, they got the backfire screen in this one, even though it's a 2-stroke, so you might wanna buy the regular 2-stroke one. Get rid of that backfire screen. First time I've seen that. So tech tip, I don't know, what is that, 6? Get rid of that, and you can put the regular air filter cage in it. To put it back in, our tab has to catch up on the top here, slide it right in, And this is where people are struggling. They're calling me and they can't get this tab down here to catch because it's too far in. If you put your finger on the back side of it right here, see how I just pushed out on it? And then now you can lock it in there. And see how I got this to show the brown color all the way down? I like that. Everything is a little more sealed, nicely put together. Okay, quite a bit to talk about in this area. The first thing is our fuel petcock. This has not changed. Reserve is forward, off, and then on. Now keep in mind, if you run in the on position, the fuel petcock is way too tall in these tanks. So you're gonna run out of gas about half a tank. You really wanna run this on reserve all the time. You can see where you are with your fuel level. And tech tip number 7 is gonna be to make sure you pre-mix your first tank of gas, or first 1 gallon. So there's 1 gallon, that's why the tank is red, or oil, or the gas looks red, is that it's got premix in that tank right now. That way we make sure our oil injection is working. So I'm typically looking for an air bubble somewhere in the oil injection line. You can kind of see it starts here, comes around the bottom, then it finishes off on that side of the car boot. So just make sure you can tell your oil injection is working. But here is something that I noticed right away on this bike. Kind of come in a little bit closer, Rex. See how pinched that fuel line is right there? So I didn't want to cut it and fix it until I talked about it, because if you just bought a new bike, look how kinked that thing is right there. So this fuel line is just way too long. So my suggestion is we're going to want to move. It's not like a band, it's just a rubber band right here, most likely, or is what it is. Slide it down, and then I'm going to cut this fuel line like 1 inch shorter, and it'll kind of direct it straight more toward the fuel petcock. But if you just bought one at home, I'm sure yours is kind of doing the same thing. We kind of want to correct that. And while we're here, this is our choke, so we can turn up on the choke to lock it on, and then put down on the choke to turn it off. Okay, let's do a quick walk around, and then we're going to do a seat height comparison between the 2024 and the 2025. So right away, here's the new separated forks. They're calling it a separate hydraulic chamber. And so basically this side has your spring and the preload in it. There's no other adjustments on it. You can see there's no screws to adjust on the top or the bottom. And on the left fork leg is where you make your rebound and compression adjustments. So it's got the R on top. It's hard to read that, but there's an R right there. That's rebound, and then compression is down here. And I don't think my gimbal is going to let me. And maybe you can see that. It's got the black spin adjuster on it, which I think is dangerous as heck in the mud. So I'm not sure how long those are going to stay on. It's got the same exact tab on the bottom as the top. I think that's probably going to break off if you hit any kind of rock or anything. It's going to snag that off of there. But more of a side note, same Nissan caliper in the front. Brake rotor is normal. Everything up through the fork guards all look the same. They do have the cool red for guards in the front. I think they're really sweet looking. I'm sure some people are going to want those for their last year's model. I think they'll work. And the 200 this year got the updated radiators. So it's got the new, older cap design, and turn really sharp with it. You can see how far we turned. It's good they dented that in, because really taking advantage of that turning angle. Where the 2024 has the old style cap to it. We just kind of talked about that area a little bit. And I do like the styling in the back, like the all new fender design. I think it looks great. You can see how sleek it is down through here. So I think it's really cool styling. It's really strong, really rigid, maybe way stronger than the 2024 stuff is. It's got the Nissan brakes in the rear. And then it's got the new updated master cylinder in the front. So it's got the more volume is why they did this. So you have more volume, less chance of boiling your brakes over. So pretty cool. They updated that on the RRX Pro. Here's where that oil injection line goes in and back up through. So, power valve adjustment. It's right there. So if, the further out, and we've got a video on our channel, the further out you screw this 5mm hex head. So if it's flush with the case, it's going to let the power valve open sooner. So a less of an abrupt hit, but power sooner. If you screw that in, especially further, it's going to open up power valve later, giving you a bigger hit later in the RPM range. So that's a walk around, and let's do some seat height comparisons. All right, guys, one thing I forgot to talk about was going to be the catch tank for the coolant. So you can see that black hose going down, runs down along the side, and then how it disappears up in the frame right there. You can see how that one tube goes up in, and then there's a tube coming out and down and out like always. So the new thing is where it goes up in. We've got a flashlight here with our mirror. You can see up in there, there's a little black catch tank. So what that's doing is any coolant, you know, if it's hot or whatever, it'll go up in there. And then try to show you guys the best I can. It'll kind of suck it back out if it needs it. So that's new for this year. I've never seen a catch tank, and it's hidden in the frame. It took me a second. I just had to follow the hoses. So that's the new catch tank on the RRX Pro. Okay, this is the 2024. I'm gonna sit on it. I'm 6'4". I'm flat-footed, but barely. And we'll kind of squish it around a little bit. Stock settings, 0 miles on this bike's never even been started, to be honest with you. There's no gas even in this one. So there is stock height, and maybe I'll do like a 1, 2, 3 pushes. Let's grab this tape measure, and you're gonna wanna be level with the seat, Braxton, so bring the camera straight in. Yep, back up just a little bit so you can see. What do you got for a number there? If you read straight across, okay.
I'm like 37 and a half.
37 and a half. Make sure the camera's not too high or anything. Let me try to get over here next to you, bud.
Or maybe 36.
Oh, tipping over on me. Okay. So if we lay this, yeah, I think you're right. 37 and 37.25. So 37 and a quarter is on the 2024. So let's get this 25 off the stand and we'll check it out. All right, here's the 25. First time really sitting on it. Yeah, knees are bent a little bit more. I can't say that it's a lot, but kind of push up and down on it, and then we'll do the same 1, 2, 3. One thing I did notice is we had a customer come in yesterday and buy a brand new bike for me. It was a 300RR, and he was nervous on how high the bike sat. I have Ryan's 250 two-stroke here that has like 10 hours on it, and I let him sit on Ryan's bike, and it was so much lower. So we're doing this with a bike's never been ridden, but in truth, like if you put like 10 hours on this thing, any of these bikes are gonna sit so much lower. So, all right, this tape measure is too high. Let me zoom it back down in a little bit here. All right, let's find out what we got here, buddy. Oh yeah, like 37 even. Yeah, there you go, you're a little flatter. Okay, so it's a 1/4 of an inch lower. Is that quite a talking point? I don't know. But the good news is, like I said, as we ride these bikes, it is gonna get lower. So let's take this thing outside and we'll start it for the first time. Okay, let's see. So I have not cut the fuel line yet, so I probably should have done that inside, but I think it's gonna be fine for doing this. Let me just sneak it like this. So we'll fix that in a minute. So truthfully, first test. So come on over here, Brax. Let's show what I usually do. So when I start the bikes for the first time, I can already tell you right now that this black screw is way out too far. So see how far out that's showing? I'm gonna give you my normal, after setting up like 300 and some of these things, like I'm gonna start there. So I'm gonna give it some choke. Dang, that starts fast for the first time. It's actually pretty close right there. Pretty crazy how fast that started. Idle's coming up a little. You never want to set idle when the engine's cold, so like we're gonna let it run for a minute right now, and then you'll determine idle once you got heat in it. The pipe has got to get hot, so we got to give it a minute. Idling great though. We forgot to talk about the new anti-vibration X-Trig handlebar mounts, so check these out. So they've got these new mounts in here. They're X-Trig. So I think it's the same upper triple clamp. They've just added this for the customer. What I didn't talk about either is how cool that the price didn't change on this model. So last year it was $9,500. It's still $9,500. So I think you're getting a lot for the value. Of course, the 24s are on huge sales right now. You can buy a 24 for super cheap. Depends on when you're watching this video. So anyway, let's start this thing up. Man, that's cool. Super crisp. So this bike is gonna smoke more because we got oil mixed in the gas. So if you see more smoke coming out as it warms up, it's gonna, because I'm doing double the oiling. Come on in right here, Brax. And we're looking for like an air bubble. There's really not much in this line. There's not much I can show you. These ones are really primed really well. Normally there's an air bubble in there that I can use to Double check the headlight. Check the horn out. Brake light, brake light. Starting to get warmed up. I can feel the heat in the radiators. Alright guys, that is the first initial setup of a Beta RRX Pro. Hopefully you found the setup tips cool. Probably a longer video once I sit down and edit. But I'm really pumped on this model. I can't wait to ride it. It's super muddy. This one's already sold, by the way. So we need to get more of these things in. I need the rain to go away so we can actually ride them. The driveway is covered in mud right now, so I'm not going to learn anything on the parking lot anyway. So thank you guys for always watching our channel. We try to bring you the best beta content on the internet. I think we do pretty good at it. We do have the 3SR TV channel, so if you want to watch like all the fun stuff, us going to the races, check out that channel. I kind of split things up a little bit. So enjoy the ride and I'll see you in the trail.